start a new RC boat build. This is the Dead Ahead RC Little Timmy. It's an inboard sport boat. Basically a Crackerbox boat, style boat, or that's how we're going to set it up. Okay, pretty cool little hull. I'll have a link in the description if you guys are interested. There's plenty of room in this boat. It's 19 inches long, 8 inches wide. Okay, basically going to be set up like a Crackerbox. We're going to have a skeg, like center of the boat, basically. Center mounted motor. Got a little blueprint here to build the boat. It's going to have a submerged drive and a rudder. I actually got a few different choices for rudder. I'm going to probably modify this because it kind of looks scale. Stick around. So this is probably it in the boat you guys were expecting me to build next. I actually have been working on getting the parts together for the H&M. I've got the hull repaired right here. We're going to be putting the top side and bottom together. I've got some hardware going, a couple flex cables, but still slowly trying to get parts together for this build right here. That'll be coming up soon. It's going to be a twin motor, and I just kind of buy one thing here, one thing there when I can afford it. So with this boat, I actually like basically using spare parts I have laying around. So it's, for me, it's a budget build. The hull was sent to me to test and run. It's actually a sister boat to this guy right here. Okay, this has actually got a modified hull, tri-hull, hybrid style hull, but it's the same hull, different hatch layout, different bottom. We're gonna make a custom skeg out of carbon fiber, sharpen up the leading edge, square it off, put a couple pieces of angle metal in the hull so it can be adjusted up and down. Okay. Alright, so I got my skid fin in the vise and basically marked out an inch on my fin here. Plan says an inch, but I'm going to make it so I can tune it up and down. You know, maybe, I don't know, 10 millimeters or so up and down. So I went out to my shop and roughed up a leading edge and a trailing edge. I thinned it out, and right now I'm just kind of sharpening it, thinning this 2 millimeter thick carbon fiber. It's 2 millimeters thick, and I want it to be about half of that, so at least a millimeter, and we're at 0.7, so that's good. So it's basically done. It's kind of shaped a little bit different than the one on the blueprint. If it don't like this shape, I can always make a new fin. It's fairly simple. It's 1 inch to the bottom of the fin, but I have the thickness of the hull to go through, so it's actually going to be a little bit less than 1 inch deep into the water, but I can always elongate the hole on the fin so I can move it up and down. That's why I'm making this bracket. Okay, 6.5 inches from the transom. Okay, 6.5 inches, and I'm wondering if that's to the back. I'm pretty sure from the transom to the back of the fin. So I marked out 6.5 inches from the transom to the back of the fin. What I'm going to do is ever so carefully mark it inside and out so I have a reference, and use my cutting wheel, a new cutting wheel, and cut me a slit. This is the part that always scares me. I hate cutting a hole in the bottom of a perfectly good boat, you know. Yeah, it always makes me nervous. Get it epoxied into the boat. Okay, but before we do that, let's go ahead, throw the motor in. Let's go ahead and throw everything in the boat. So the suggested COG, center of gravity, is 5.7 inches from the transom forward. Okay, so that means our skid fin's just forward of the center of gravity. This is the first time I've ever built a Crackerbox boat, so this is actually fun. I'm actually enjoying this. So let's so our motor's there, ESC is gonna be about right there, and battery. So before we get ahead of ourselves, let's make sure we can get everything on the center of gravity line. So that's forward. Okay, with our hardware mounted on the transom, that will probably put our CG exactly where it needs to be. But just for the sake of this video, to get our CG right where it's supposed to be at, our battery would need to be right there. Like I said, once we hang all this hardware off the back, it should be perfect. Okay, we could always move our ESC back, battery forward, or vice versa to get the CG at that 5'7", 6-inch mark, 1/3 the boat's length from the transom monohull. Okay, so this is going to be mounted right here, just like that, basically. Okay, we're going to actually start this off in this position off the transom. Before I mount this, I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole in this bracket, so we'll have an option to slide this strut forward, cut our cable. Later on, if we can't get the boat running right, at this point, the blueprint here looks like the strut is tucked right up onto the transom. Okay, a real Crackerbox boat, the drive line comes out the bottom of the boat like that. Okay, like on a real one, they have like a true submerged drive. Okay, we're gonna run ours off the back because it's a fast electric boat and we don't really have to go completely scale. Okay, so while we have all this out, I'm thinking of I think I'm going to use this rudder. I really do. It's kind of freaking big for the boat. Like I said, I'm going to cut all this off, like probably cut that hole out, tuck it up a little bit closer to the transom with an L bracket, and it's going to be in the water. Probably need to cut it right here. Probably going to need to cut this rudder off right there instead of right here, you know, a little bit shorter. Okay, so if I were to use the V2 rudder, yeah, that's actually about where the V2 rudder would end at. Okay, guys see that? So I'm really up in the air about this. I hate to ruin a perfectly good gas scale rudder, but I think it would look cool on the boat. Get it all polished up, get a new shape on it. I love modifying stuff like this. As you can tell, you guys, like I'll have a perfectly matching freaking strut for a boat, and I'll completely demolish it and put a different bracket on it, you know, like this, you know what I'm saying? Or I'll mix and match rudder blades, you know what I'm saying? Like I'll do all kind of wacky stuff, and I love doing that, you know. I don't know why. So it's been about 2 hours since I inserted my last clip, getting the nerve up to cut a hole in a perfectly good hull. Jeez, this always makes me nervous, man. I know I could freaking fix it if I mess up, but oh, this makes me nervous. So I've actually taken my time to get this mark dead nut center. Okay, make sure it's the right length. Okay, it's a little bit short, so I can finish everything off with a file. Here goes nothing. It's a hobby file. These things come in handy so often. Alright, so I got my holes elongated. Let's see how well it fits. And there's no play, okay? Because we're going to epoxy the bracket in, and then I'm going to use some silicone to kind of waterproof everything. I've modified my rudder, okay? I cut my rudder bracket up, I shortened it up, I cut the blade down, and I found a different bracket we're going to put on it, okay? Went out to the shop and grinded my bracket down and see, cut a little like V into it basically. Now she sits nice and flat. Alright, let's see how this thing fits. Boom! Alright, so I mixed up some Cabasil in my epoxy so it's not too runny. I'm going to let it sit for a minute. I'm using 15 minutes. I also took a little bit of oil. I didn't get any oil on this, on the aluminum. I put a little bit of oil on my turn fin in case I get epoxy on my turn fin. It won't stick to the turn fin, okay? So I guess you could wax it if you wanted to. You could wax it out real good. I'm just going to use some oil real quick. I got oil. I oiled all this up here. I took it apart and then put it back together, you know. So I'm basically just going to epoxy this in the boat. Fairly simple, straightforward. Put a little bit of epoxy on the mount and some epoxy on the hull. Okay, so it actually turned out pretty freaking good, man. I just took the bolts out and kind of popped it loose. The epoxy's about 80% cured out, so I didn't want it to like glue itself in the hull. Kind of glad I did because there was where I had to kind of tap it out, but it turned out pretty nice. Pretty good, pretty good. So now, once it's all the way cured, I'm actually gonna build up some epoxy right here and on this side of the bracket, okay? Maybe build it up maybe like this tall, just a little epoxy right there with thickened epoxy. And then once I go to finalize and like put my permanent fin in, I'll probably put a little bit of silicone on both sides, smeared all the way around my fin, slide it into the mount, and we shouldn't have any water leaks. As you can see, it fits in there perfect. Okay, you guys see where it ends, right on the fin, begins on the fin. Okay, so it's a tight seal. All right, so let's got that done. Let's go ahead and get the motor installed. Okay, go ahead and get this motor in there. The motor is basically on the center gravity line. Okay, basically, once we put our battery and ESC in, we can kind of mess around with center of gravity even more. So I want to be able to get to this with my flexible driver here. Get to this turn fin adjustment screw with my flexible driver. So I'm gonna set my motor back just a hair so I can get to that back screw. I may even grind this. Yeah, I think I am. I'm gonna go ahead and probably grind down to this maybe on both sides so it's not like in my way. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut it right here and then grind a little angle on it. I'm going to go ahead and do that. We'll get this lined up, figure out where our through hole is going to be for our stuffing tube. Now, this is a 4mm strut. It's got a bearing in it, and I have no idea why they would make the bore on the front of this strut so large. This is a 9/32 brass tube. Okay, basically 4 sizes, well, 3 sizes larger if you're going to use a Teflon liner, 4 sizes larger if you're not going to use a Teflon liner. So what we're going to have to do, I actually had to sand their circumference off of this to get it to fit in there, okay? But it fits. So what we're going to do is cut it right here, then cut another one about right there, and then another one right there, and then finally go to our stuffing tube. I basically put some blue Loctite on the bearing, just, you know, and there's like a shim right here, and then another bearing right here. So I kind of blue Loctited it into place so I don't have to fumble around with the bearings. They won't fall out on us. But it's real smooth. So I've actually been a busy bee. All right. I just got a pankering to like work on my boat, and the kids were running around last day or so, and I just got some stuff done for you. Okay, the video's getting long. I wasn't even planning on including all this, but I didn't want to stretch to build out 10 videos, you know. So I got this rudder all cut down, well, it's not polished, but it's looking better. Okay, I got this little generic mount on there. I got this 42mm reverse rotation prop on. It's just the first one I had picked up. Planning on running some big props with that lower KV motor, and I just wanted to get the spacing with the rudder right. I may need to flip this over. We'll see. Get it a little bit closer. But that's actually looking pretty good. I've actually modified this UL1 rudder bracket here, and we can also use that. It's actually got the same hole pattern. Okay, so we can also try the rudder closer if need be. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. I got the stuffing tube stepped down, shimmed up. Okay, and I got my stuffing tube bent. I just bent a piece of brass tube with my hands, nothing fancy. Got the hole drilled, mark out some holes, use my Dremel file drill to get that right. Everything looks like it's lining up, you know, on the keel there, the center line. And we're about to epoxy the motor into the boat. Before we do, I want to give a big shout out to Mark Gambina. Okay, one of my viewers, he's actually sent some hatch tape, that hockey tape I've been using. He sent some solder, some silver solder, and this deburr. Okay, I would have never bought this, but this thing is freaking boss, son. Usually I use like a little hobby file drill, or, you know, I'll take my time and get that little, you know, when you use that pipe cutter, it rounds it off in there, and you can't get another pipe to fit in. But you take this bad boy right here, and it takes a little getting used to, but I mean, it'll clean up a daggone brass tube in a heartbeat, boy. Just, well, you guys get the idea. Just as pretty as you ever want to see, okay? So big shout out to the boat gang. That thing's freaking awesome. I recommend getting one of those if you're a boat builder. All right. Yeah, so that's how I kind of got all this worked out. Okay. So yeah, I think we're about to epoxy this into the boat. I was waiting on this to kick off and dry. I just thickened some epoxy up and just kind of put some in the forward and aft part of this little mount right here. Boom, 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 DUN. Let's get it done. All right, so I got some epoxy, I got some Cabosil here. We're going to thicken it up a little bit, not too much. I made too much epoxy. I hate wasting epoxy. Jeez. I was thinking about using some fiberglass in this. I like, you know, building my motor mounts into the hole with some chopped up fiberglass, you know, or carbon fiber. Fiberglass would just kind of match the whole color, but we're gonna go Cabasil with this. Don't even know why, but it'll work. It'll work. I don't feel like chopping up no freaking fiberglass right now. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of see where we need to lay it out here. I guess the best way to do it, maybe get you some epoxy on your mount here, and then you can kind of set that into the hole, and it'll kind of give you a little outline of where you need to put your epoxy. I'm gonna try not to get no epoxy on my freaking motor, but you know how that is. All right, so get this lined up. Very important. I got this stuffing tube just sitting in the hole. It's like lined up with the keel and everything. Kind of doing it bass backwards, but we'll get it right. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and mount this up. Okay, so let's get us a little imprint so we can see where the motor's gonna sit. Kind of got her centered up. All right, now we'll pull that cable out. That kind of gives us a little outline to work with there, and we'll go ahead and like lay out this epoxy. I did not rough this up. I did not rough it up. I did clean it yesterday. Oh boy, I hope she sticks, man. Too late now. Recommend roughing up your epoxy or your work surface first before you start laying out freaking epoxy. Okay, so yeah, that looks good. Now I'm just gonna show you what I'm doing for one side, and then I'll cut back into what it looks like when it's done. Brush, like, since I didn't clean it, sand it or nothing, I'm just gonna like really get that brush on there and try to get some good contact with this epoxy. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get her epoxied in there. I'm making a freaking mess. So I got my motor exactly where I want it. I had to cut the video because it's really an important part of my build and I don't want to mess it up. And I got it dead nut center here. Freaking hope so. All right, and I just wanted to kind of give you guys this tip. I cleaned my brush up. Got some alcohol, 90% alcohol, or what, 70, 80, whatever, rubbing alcohol. Put some alcohol in your brush. Okay, you don't need it like saturated. Just a little bit of alcohol. Go over that epoxy, okay, and it will smooth that epoxy out. You can clean your brush up real good, and you can actually kind of blend that epoxy into the hole, okay, and just kind of clean it up, all right, while it's wet. All right, hopefully you guys could see what I was doing here. Just kind of cleaning up my epoxy. All right, once it's about 80% dry, kind of kicked off, can't really move nothing, I like to put some alcohol on my finger. Okay, I like to put some alcohol on my finger, and you can form that epoxy, maneuver it, not too much. Don't use too much is what I'm trying to say. But it'll definitely make things look better, you know. So this is my final check before this epoxy kicks off. My motor looks lined up. All right, looking at my strut, got that on the keel. It's lined up with the keel. Got the cable in my collet, okay. Just to kind of center everything up, we still got to epoxy this into the boat, so we got a little leeway there, but mainly getting that motor straight, boy. All right. So I'm actually working on getting this stuffing tube bent so that I can get it a little bit closer to the keel. As you guys seen earlier, it was kind of far away from the keel, and I really think that would actually give me too like dry of a running boat, you know, with it that far down. Okay. And if when I would go up with it, it would just give me a bunch of positive angle, and I don't think these boats like that. I think they're going to want some negative angle to get the bow up and out the water. So let's see if that little cut I did there, that little grind, yeah. So that actually getting it closer to the keel, a little bit better looking to me. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Like I mentioned earlier, I got this drilled out so we can actually start here. If it needs to be closer, or I feel it needs to go closer, we can actually cut the cable and go closer to the hull. Okay, but for the time being, we're going to run it out here. I think I might need to take, yeah, I think I'm going to take a little bit of the bend out. I think I got too much bend there, so we're actually going to pull a little bit of that bend out. I would imagine this is a very important part of the build, getting this this right. You know, getting the stuffing tube bent so we got some negative angle and it's not too deep. I was actually considering going with like a silicone through hole right here, or I think I took too much bend out, or a oh, it might be good. Yeah, that looks better. It's actually farther away from the hull, but whenever I go up with it now, it's more of a neutral position than positive. You know what I'm saying? I might actually take a little bit more of that bend off camera, but getting there. It's getting there. It's getting there. I got this stuffing tube exactly where I want it. Okay, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Close to the keel, not too low. I can actually put some up angle on it, and it looks like it would be like a neutral angle almost, not positive like earlier, and we can go down and get that negative. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to epoxy it. I'm going to go ahead and epoxy it. So as you guys seen, I got the stuffing tube epoxy in the boat. We have a nice alignment to the motor. Actually looks like I can come up a little bit on my stuffing tube, so I'll do that once everything's fully cured out. I'll just maybe bend it up a little bit, no big deal. The bottom, got it pretty much done. Wait for it to cure. Probably sand it, get it like, you know, final fit and finished. I need to cut my cable right now, so I usually just kind of bottom it out in the coupler, and I'll get a measurement. You guys see that? Then I'll pull my cable out. I'll mark it. I already marked it. Okay, mark it. I'm gonna cut mine a little bit long because I am human, and I just use this little Dremel right here. I noticed with left and right hand cables, you actually want the direction of the wheel to spin with the direction of the cable. So you see how that cable's wrapped in the direction my wheel's spinning? Okay, that's the right way to do it. If you were to go under, the wheel would be spinning the opposite direction, and it will actually like tether your cable. Okay, so pay attention to that when you're cutting the cable or grinding that little edge on it. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit long. That's what I want. I'll cut it to size once I near completion. Okay, you guys probably seen me cutting, modifying, fabricating my servo mount. Basically used a piece of angle metal, the inside of a piece of angle metal, and I made this, you know, I actually waxed it and laid this carbon fiber in there. Okay, and I made me a piece of angle fiber. Okay, this is actually the first attempt. It didn't seat well onto the angle, and I had like a bow in it, so I'm actually using that for this build, saving this for a little bit, yeah, for a special occasion type deal. And I just cut my servo into it. Pretty simple. Okay, some epoxy dam holes. I had to cut up some fiberglass. Got some fiberglass cloth that I've cut up, and we're actually gonna epoxy this into the boat, basically right there. Okay, I'm gonna build it into the boat. Before I do that, I'm actually gonna go ahead. I went ahead and put the right prop on. I had a right hand rotation prop. You guys are probably like, what the hell, B? You got the wrong rotation. But I got the right rotation. This is a 43 millimeter TFL prop. And before I'm actually going to switch this over. I'm going to flip this bracket, take all this off, flip it, and see where it lands at in relation to the prop. So that's where it's at now. Get flipped over, and the rudder assembly is basically closer to my propeller. And this is a 43 millimeter TFL. Doubt I'll run anything larger than that. That should be plenty for this bad boy. And this is a low V. It's not a flat bottom. It's not a deep V. It's a low V. So when she banks over, it's not going to bank that hard. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's about as much as she would bank, I would imagine, on the bottom of that drive line to this corner. You know what I mean? So we're going to have plenty of rudder in the water. If we move the rudder back out, you know, in its previous position, there's still going to be plenty of rudder. So I think I'm going to flip it back around. This is just things I'm showing you that, you know, you might want to take into consideration when you're building a boat. I've learned that a rudder like directly beside the prop or behind the prop tends to steer a boat better. If I were to use this bracket right here, which I kind of contemplated it, because it would actually look better, you know, I don't know how much control I would have, you know what I mean? So later on, if I do decide to move this forward, I could actually put this bracket on, and it would basically be lined up just how we have it. So yeah, I'm just kind of talking. I know the video is long, but I haven't done a whole boat build in a long time. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the video and maybe learning something with me, you know. So she's actually turning out pretty good. So I'm gonna flip that bracket back over. We need to figure out our steering geometry, get all that worked out with our servo. Alright, so it's actually the next day, okay? And I have this very complex and complicated jig set up for my servo here. I just used some thickened epoxy, very light thickened epoxy, last night before I went to bed, and woke up to a solid mount. Okay, now I'm actually going to reinforce it with some epoxy and fiberglass hardener and resin to epoxy my servo mount in with some fiberglass mixed up. Okay, both sides, it's strong, it ain't going nowhere. I went ahead and mounted my servo. Okay, I've got the horn on with a little teeny tiny rod connector. Now that rod connector, it barely goes over the top of my servo, but it does, and that's why I picked it, just in case we needed to make a real hard left turn or something crazy. So the hole for that rod was too small in the connector, so I just drilled it out, easy peasy. Okay, 1.5 millimeter stainless steel push rod. The bellow, I basically just kind of lined up my horn and my other horn on the rudder and drilled a hole, straight shot. Pretty simple, okay? Got my rudder on. All right, I got a little shim that we need to put in there, but we'll get that done. I've already got it made, just need to insert it. And it's actually siliconed onto the hull. I need to clean it up. I put a carbon fiber backer plate on. Okay, I didn't realize the plans called for a 1/8 brace on the transom. I don't think it's needed, so I'm just gonna freaking use a carbon fiber plate for the rudder. That's it. I got my holes drilled for my trim tabs. Okay, drilled them tight. All right, and they're flat to the bottom of the boat. It looks like they had them mounted on the outside, so we went with that. Okay, I didn't want to get them out past the chine. All right, so that should work. I'm about to use some clear silicone to put those bad boys on. I normally use this stuff right here. I just don't feel like digging the dried up adhesive out the hole, but I like this Loctite Marine. It can be a pain in the butt, but yeah, we're going to just silicone everything. I've already got my strut on there and silicone on this. I'm just going to lightly silicone all the way around it before I permanently install it. Let's go. That's a nice clean setup. It looks trick. It looks trick. So I just made a really quick, like fast battery tray for the boat. And I figured that carbon fiber would kind of tie the carbon fiber servo mount into the build. You know, I think I'm going to run my ESC about right there. And I kind of went through my little box of carbon fiber pieces. I don't throw away scrap pieces like cutoffs. I keep it because I'm going to actually use this and this one for the end to lift my battery tray up. I said it was quick because I should have cut an oval here, an oval here, left the center solid so I can use 3 pieces. Okay, but I'm not going to run the 5200. I'm actually going to run this 5500 HCL HC, not the EC. It's much lighter and more compact. 3S pack from SMC Racing in this boat. And I think that'll work without the middle being supported. That should work. So I'm basically going to epoxy this into the boat. I'm going to rough up this guy, rough up this. I've already drilled, took my Dremel and like scratched, scarred, roughed up the surface to be bonded. Got fiberglass and Cabosil. Fiberglass cloth and Cabosil in my epoxy. So I cut a little water pickup, through hole water pickup with soldered on a little nipple there, and we're going to epoxy in the boat right there. Okay. Man, my freaking bench gets piled higher and higher every day. I got to clean this thing off, and then I throw things in my catch-alls over here, and hell, there's nothing going to be left to throw in the catch-alls. Jeez. So I got the battery tray epoxied in. It actually turned out pretty good. The through hole is in. I paid very close attention to how deep I mounted it, and I kind of mounted it a little too close to the stuffing tube, but it'll be okay. It'll be all right. DUN done. Okay, you guys have seen the whole build basically. This is the final layout. Got the ESC double-side tape to mount my receiver with hot glue for the on-off button. It's just easy. It pops out with alcohol. It peels off with alcohol. All right, water cooling line from the end to the ESC, out the ESC, in the bottom part of the cooling jacket, out the top and out the boat. I used a Pro Boat ready to run, like plastic insert. You know, you just drill a hole and then insert a piece of plastic into the tube, and it's ironclad. It ain't going no freaking where. That's all it needs. Okay, battery tray, as you guys seen, it looks good. I got it plugged in. Okay, I thinned and polished the blades on this TFL. It's not like perfectly polished, but I polished it up, and it's thin so the boat won't like do no wacky stuff for a maiden. Got a neutral trim on my trim tabs, neutral on the strut. We'll go down or up if we need to, positive and negative if we need to. I cut a keyway on my shaft right here on this rudder so I can actually go down or up, kind of adjust that. Got an antenna tube as my breakaway screw. I hit something, it'll break that plastic antenna tube, and we have kickback protection. All right. A lot of adjustability in my builds, a lot of it. I try to incorporate adjustability everywhere and anywhere I can. So just give you guys a look at it from the bottom here. All right, it's got a good weight bias. It's pretty light, and I like this hole because the whole hatch, it's big, it's open. You don't have to like squeeze in and do nothing. It was actually a pleasure to build. I'm not even gonna lie. Yeah, so yeah, I'm actually going to include a minute, maybe a minute, 30, 45 seconds of running footage. The maiden will be in the next video. It was a pleasure to run. I really, and I highly recommend you guys stepping outside your box and building a boat that you normally wouldn't build. You know, Crackerbox has never really caught my fancy, and I actually had a blast running this boat today. I actually, like, right here, make sure I polished up the stuffing tube, but that epoxy going through the hull, make sure that's like hydrodynamic. It's not going to create any extra drag or lift. Yep. So I'm going to let you guys go. I kept you long enough. I hope you guys enjoyed the full build on the little Timmy. Like, comment, subscribe if you like little boats like me. Big B with Ironclad RC. It's just nice to see it on the water finally. Oh man, opened up. That's where it's at. I'm sitting there taking it easy. Let's go. Oh shoot. Oh man, let's freaking go, boy. Let's see. Oh, doggy tail. Oh man. See, that's fucking, it tickles the mess out of me, man. Different models. Let's freaking go. Oh, I love RC boating. I love sharing it with you guys, man. It's just a fun experience. Oh man, I'm like cheesing from grinning, smiling ear to ear.